All right, now we're going to talk about how to take your system apart, and you only need to take your system apart every few weeks, maybe a month. A lot of that depends on how much debris is in the pool, how much you use the pool, the bather load, and we know it's time to take the system apart when we see a 10 to 15 psi increase on our pressure gauge. Another indication would be we have a flow, a check system on our salt system, or even our heater isn't operating because it's not seeing enough water flow. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to turn the pump off. We're going to close all of our ball stops here to keep the water up close and make for an easier prime up. We're going to take apart the pump, remove the debris from that unit. We're going to clean our filter, and then we're going to put it back together. Seems like a lot of steps. It's pretty simple. First, I'm going to go shut the pump off. And when you turn your pump off, go ahead and push the test button on your GFI breaker. It's a good idea to make sure that that is working properly. Then we're going to shut off our valves, our ball stops here on our intake manifold and our return manifold. Next, I'm going to open up the pool pump, knock any debris out of that basket. When you put the basket back in, be sure that this hole here and this notch is right in the front and lined up in that pump. Then I'm going to open the bleeder valve to let the water run backwards and push any last little bits of debris or leaves from the pump. I put the lid on while it's still running, so now I have water in this entire manifold and in this line. That's really going to help us out a lot when we go to start it back up and prime it. Next step is to open up our cleaner or drain to waste valve. The water is leaving the filter, and by turning this valve to this position, we've shut off the water going forward, protecting the heater, preventing any debris from going into the salt system or chlorinator, and ultimately back to the pool. It's slowing down, which means it's just about empty. We're going to push these tabs up, turn the ring, set our lid off to the side, and then to remove the filter, you're simply going to grab these notches here in the frame, maybe put a pinky in the filter, and gently rotate until it comes out. Now this filter is in pretty good shape. We were at a low pressure, so it really doesn't need cleaned, but this is the time you'd clean it. Simply hose it down. If there is any sand or rocks or debris in the filter canister, good opportunity to hit it with a hose, and that material will come out your drain to waste valve as you spray that in. Theoretically, we just went ahead and cleaned this, so we're going to put this back in, and this shouldn't take any type of force. There's an arrow here on the top of this canister. The easiest thing to do is to point that arrow at the pump and then rotate it until it drops in. We're going to make sure that there isn't any sand or debris on this O-ring. If there is, simply wipe it off with a rag. Once or twice a year, this O-ring also can use some silicone grease, which was provided in your maintenance kit, just to keep it in good condition. Our lid goes back on with the gauge pointing to you so you can see it easily, and then we're just going to push down on that lid. If this retainer takes any more than a couple fingers and a snap to click in, something probably isn't lined up just quite right. Next, we're going to come over and take a look at our salt system. If you have a chlorine dispenser, this would be the time that you would add a couple pucks, or at least check and make sure there's adequate pucks in there. On a salt system, we've got a screen in here that we want to inspect and make sure that dirt hasn't gotten past and has clogged it up. And we do that just like so. If you have a problem with your salt system and it isn't producing chlorine and it's giving you an error message, 90% of the time this is your culprit. So we're gonna make sure that that's clean. Rotate the manifold back on. And tighten our union back down. To start the system up, if you recall, we've got water in the pump, we've got water in the intake manifold and in the pipe up to the filter. Our bleeder valve is still open. Our drain to waste valve is still open. So what I'm going to do is turn the pump on. It will immediately pump that couple gallons of water that's in there, and then make a noise because there isn't any water left. I'm then going to open up the skimmer or the main drain, it doesn't matter, and it is immediately going to begin to reprime the system. We're going to let the bleeder valve go until the air is all out, and we're going to let our drain to waste run until we see clear water. If you have a very dirty filter, taking it out and putting it back in and cleaning it, there will still be some mixed dirt in that canister. And what we want to do is get that dirty water out before we allow it to go back to the pool. So I'm going to go over, turn the pump on. Now we're turning our pump back on at the circuit breaker, and we're going to make this quick. The pump sucked up that initial water that was in it. I'm now turning on our skimmer. We've immediately got water flowing. Our bleeder valve is pushing the air out. For a moment, the water isn't moving, and then I come over here and I open up the valves to allow it to go back to the pool. We're back to our starting pressure, and then we're going to turn on the main drain.